Hello and welcome to the Premier League review. We can't call it the Premier League review because we get done. I'm Adam Wilbourn from WhatCulture Football, joined by Andrew Pollard from WhatCulture Football to look back over the weekend's results and look ahead to the two games in the Premier League tonight. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Football on either iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily football podcasts when you're out and about. I'd like to start, Andrew, today with a brief moment of silence for all those people, like a friend of mine, who took Son and Mane out of their fantasy football sides because they thought, well, Man United are going to tear up Crystal Palace.
Yeah,
we've all been there.
Yeah, it was a tough Premier League weekend for fantasy football players if you didn't have Sadio Mane or Dominic Calvert-Lewin or, of course, Son. So yeah, if you didn't have any of those three players, it's probably not been a good week. Unless you've got someone at Manchester City who goes and bags a hat-trick tonight. Who knows?
Some interesting results to talk about over the weekend. We will get to that Crystal Palace result, get to Man United. We should talk about the Premier League champions first, though. I felt yesterday that was a reminder of what Liverpool can do. I think a lot of people have sort of been basing their analysis of this season for Liverpool off the sort of last few games of last season where, I mean, they were celebrating being Premier League champions as much as other people like, oh, are they going to break Man City's record? They weren't asked. I don't think even most Liverpool fans were that bothered. All they cared about was finally winning that Premier League title. And once that was in the bag, as we all saw, they kind of took their foot off the gas. So I think a lot of people very wrongly said, well, this is it now. They're going to have a mare. Maybe they won't even make top four or anything like that just because they hadn't signed anyone. Obviously, they've gone on a bit of a signing spree recently. And we saw Thiago in yesterday's game, but I was really impressed, especially in the second half. Obviously, the man advantage really helped them, but the way Liverpool sort of turned it on against a side that we all thought, and I certainly predicted ahead of this game, this would be a real sort of, not a title decider, but important in the title race.
Yes, or a title decider for hyperbolic purposes in our preview. Yes, towards the end of the last week. Liverpool looked good. Liverpool looked proficient and efficient. I think is one way to do it. I don't think they got anywhere close to top gear. And I think Chelsea as well played their part in it because Chelsea were poor. I thought they were really poor, and they still. One of the big issues for me goes back to Kepa. You can tell that the defense just has no confidence there in him. No. And that played. I thought that played a part in the red card for Christensen. To be honest, that you could see maybe he didn't have that faith in his goalkeeper behind him. But no, Liverpool. I thought not to take anything away from Liverpool. I thought they were very professional. It was just a professional performance. Sadio Mane obviously getting the headlines with 2 goals, and it was a big game for Liverpool this early into the season. It was a big game for Chelsea this early into the season, and for Liverpool to win so convincingly. Chelsea barely laid a glove on Liverpool. It felt for the most part. Obviously there was a penalty, so there was that, but. Jorginho kind of got found out this time, I think, on his unique, I guess the unique approach he has to take penalties. Alisson read it easily, and it's one of those. I think if you have any kind of unique structure of penalty like that, the one time or the times that you miss, you look like a complete idiot, and everybody thinks every keeper should be saving these, but it's obviously a bit more difficult than that. But yeah, Liverpool look very good for so early on in the season.
But they aren't top. Leicester are top after a 4-2 victory over Burnley. Really enjoying watching them play, even if Burnley did make a fair account of themselves in this game.
Yeah, it was. I think the scoreline maybe flattered Leicester a little because I thought that Burnley. It was. I thought there were some really good performances at the back for Burnley, which is hard to say when they conceded 4 goals. But I thought the star of the show for me was Timothy Castagne, who they'd signed from Atalanta, Leicester, right back, who had a great debut the week before, and just he was involved in so much. And like you said, they look fun to watch. They were fun to watch, whether it's Vardy, whether it's Yuri Tillemans, who just pulls the strings so well. Denny Pratt seems to really be coming into his own this season after impressing towards the end of last season. It's a fun side to watch. Harvey Barnes as well had a really good game. Yeah, James Justin is fun to watch and great for my fantasy football side. Yep. But yeah, it was good. Leicester would look really, really good and really positive, especially after having that, I guess, mixed bag of a restart where there was some really disappointing results in there. So yeah, they're off to a flyer, the Foxes.
We have to talk about Tottenham, of course. 5-2 winners over Southampton. Heung-min Son getting 4 goals, Harry Kane 4 assists and a goal. They looked sensational, a different side to the one we saw last weekend. And what can they achieve this season now they've got, these new signings, including, of course, Gareth Bale?
Oh, for me, I still think Tottenham, even with Gareth Bale, which I think is a great bit of business, and Sergio Reguilon as well, the left back from Real Madrid, again, a great bit of business. They made some good additions. Of course, Dele Alli looks like he may be out the exit door as well. And I wouldn't put it past Tottenham to make another couple of signings before the transfer window closes next month. But I think realistic for me, they're that side. Well, they're one of those sides that's going to be competing for that kind of 4th spot, I think, or maybe 3rd. I don't think they're quite at the stage for title contenders, but they'll be in the discussion for the European places and for the Champions League places, I think. And yeah, what you touched on there, Harry Kane getting 4 assists, that was different, especially as we know that he is, I don't throw too much shade at him, but he's one of the most selfish strikers I think I've ever seen. And that's a compliment because he scores so many goals.
Yeah.
But we've seen before him appealing for goals left, right, and centre that maybe haven't gone for him. But for him to be the provider for 4, and obviously get himself a goal, it was. I've not seen Harry Kane play like that really, where he drops so deep and then just sprays it, which was some of the balls he was playing across they were stunning crossfield passes for Sonny, who had a field day, but Southampton did themselves no favours just by playing such a high line, especially after the first couple of goals. You're thinking, right, okay, I know this is your plan of attack, Southampton, but maybe you've got to adjust, you've got to work on the fly and maybe drop back a little deeper, set yourself up a little bit deeper. And they didn't. And time again, Son got through, Eric Lamela got through at times, and obviously Harry Kane. But yeah, Southampton played into Tottenham's hands.
Yeah, you can't play like that against Spurs. And that just reminds us of what an exciting front line they could well have if they get these sorts of opportunities in games, not just with Kane and Son and Lamela and Bergwijn, but now, of course, with the new signings. I'm very excited. I still don't think they'll make the top 4, but to be honest, I don't know who is going to be in the top 4 right now. I think Arsenal are really dark horses for that, but we'll get onto that when we talk about the Arsenal game from Saturday night. Let's wrap up our review of the Sunday fixtures with, well, it was fun while it lasted. Newcastle 0, Brighton and Hove Albion 3, and it could have been 5.
Yeah, Newcastle United title contenders? I do not think so.
I got 1 week out of it.
You did. You got to milk that for 1 week. As probably as a favour to Adam Nicholas, our beloved editor, who obviously is a massive Newcastle fan. But yeah, Newcastle were poor, and I had high hopes from him in this. I mean, they had such an impressive win in the first weekend. I brought Callum Wilson and Jamal Lewis into my fantasy football team. So nearly captain Callum Wilson as well. He's my vice captain, which would have been disastrous. But they just weren't at it. Brighton, fair play to Brighton. They were really fun to watch, I thought, and they could have had a 4 or 5 really. Neil Maupay could have had a few more. I thought Aaron Connolly looked really, really good. But yeah, Newcastle, on the Newcastle side of it, it was just there was. If I'm looking at that and I'm trying to take some positives from the game, there really wasn't anything. There was, I don't know, Alan Saint-Maximin didn't have the greatest of starts, and obviously picked up an injury. Callum Wilson didn't really have a sniff at goal. Andy Carroll,
he had that header. He should have scored that header.
Yeah, good point. There was that actually. And Andy Carroll wasn't really involved much. It was, and at the back it was far too easy. I mean, the goal from Connolly, where I think it's Jamal Lascelles, is just. Everybody can see what what Connolly's going to do there. That he's cutting on the left, open up his body, pop it in the far corner, and just Jamal Lascelles he just lets him do it. And it's like everybody can see it. It was obvious what was going to happen, and I just thought, it was disappointing all across the pitch really for Newcastle. And Jamal Lewis getting sweet chin music as well wasn't what was brutal.
Days.
Yeah,
I mean, it wasn't. Yeah, there was no malice in that. I thought it was a bit weird red card, if I'm perfectly honest. Certainly when you compare it to like Christiansen's rugby tackle. There was no intention there. It was just a sort of youthful exuberance and attempting a flick, and then accidentally injury Jamal Lewis. Hope he recovers. I want to very quickly mention Tariq Lampty, who I thought was a real eye catcher in that game, and they were singing his praises afterwards for obvious reasons.
Yeah, he was phenomenal. It was a shame that he went off just before the hour mark. Hopefully, it's nothing too serious with that. But yeah, it's rare that you can say that a fullback runs the show, but he was everywhere. He was in the middle of the park. He was out wide. He was breaking forward. He was covering back. It was just and you're looking at it, you're thinking, why did Chelsea let him go for I think it was 3 million maybe or something? It just seemed. To me, I think it was silly for Chelsea to let him go. He played a couple of games last season and he looked good, and that's why I thought I was a bit surprised that they did agree to sell him. But for Brighton, they've got a hell of a player there, a hell of a prospect who it was fun to watch because the kid is so quick as well. So he's there at fullback 1 minute, and then in the blink of an eye, he's overlapped the forwards and he's making a run in the final third. And you can tell he looks like he has fun playing football. And it's just sometimes it's just good to see that somebody who enjoys it, because it is quite a cynical, miserable game at times. But he looks like he's going to be a hell of a player, Lamptey.
Right, we alluded to it in the introduction, but those people who took out Spurs players because they were convinced Man United were going to tear Crystal Palace to pieces were very sadly mistaken. A stunning result for Palace, but what they deserved.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. It was Crystal Palace were brilliant. Manchester United were awful, but Crystal Palace were fantastic. Wilfried Zaha was brilliant.
I saw someone say it's his best ever performance in a Palace shirt. That.
Oh, that sounds like a WhatCulture headline, if ever there was one. Is this his best performance ever? But I mean, it's hard to disagree with that. He was one of those days where Wilfried Zaha was unplayable. He was great. That Roy Hodgson made him captain, which was, I think, raised a few eyebrows given the fact that Zaha has been very public saying he wants to leave this summer. Palace have been very public saying that they're prepared to let him go for the right price. Mm-hmm. So for Hodgson then to put the armband on him, and for Zaha as well, needs credit for responding so well to that. It was even though he's taught for, it feels like the last 18 months, 2 years, maybe more, of wanting to leave Palace, his performances don't really get affected by it, and it's credit to the professionalism of the fella. But yeah, he was brilliant. Palace were great. It was 100% deserved, and Manchester United just were so poor.
For a team that I suggested could even challenge for the title, should United fans be worried, or is this just a sluggish start to their season?
I don't know. I always think back to the what was it, 90, would it be 95, 96 or 94, 95 season where it opened and they got beat 3-1 by Aston Villa, and it was when they'd sold Mark Hughes, Andrei Kanchelskis, Paul Ince that summer, and brought through this random kid called David Beckham, and this Gary Neville lad was getting a game at right back, and Nicky Butt, who's Nicky Butt? Yes, so, and Paul Scholes. So I don't try and read too much into the opening days or the opening weekends, because obviously United turned that round and winning the league that season. So it's not kind of red alert sort of thing, everybody in panic modes at Old Trafford, but it is concerning, and you can see that Solskjaer, I think a lot of people have said they need a new centre back, whether it's to start instead of Lindelof or Maguire, or just provide proper competition to get them to up their game. I mean, Eric Bailly, when he's fit, is fantastic, but you just can't always bet and guarantee that he's going to be fit and available. But they seem to be crying out for a centre half. At left back, they looked sluggish, and it was easy for Palace to get in through that side down the right. And going forward, there really wasn't. Martial didn't really. There wasn't too much for him. I know you brought him into your fantasy football side, and that's not worked out. Rashford had moments. Paul Pogba was okay at times. McTominay, it was a strange team, I thought. The fact they brought in Fosu Mensah got a start, and Wan-Bissaka was on the bench. And I don't know, it was a bit of a strange side. And you're thinking, well, obviously Donny van der Beek is one plus point to take away from it. He came on and obviously got a goal, but he looked good. He looked to impose himself on the game a little bit. But yeah, it was a strange starting 11. There's some obvious weaknesses there. And yeah, they need to do some business really. And David De Gea, didn't have the greatest of games either. When you've got Dean Henderson there now, ready to compete, maybe it's sooner rather than later that he gets a chance.
Very quickly, right decision with the penalty retake.
Yeah, by the letter of the law, it was. It was very harsh, but that is the rule, so it's black and white. I thought the awarding of the penalty though was an absolute farce. It was. I mean, what is Victor Lindelof supposed to do when the ball's drilled at him from not even 2 yards? I get that his arm's in an unnatural position, but there's no time to adjust.
No one.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And then we saw in the Arsenal game where a similar one with Gabriel, where it hit him on the arm in the same place from a greater distance, and there's nothing given. So there's got to be consistency on that. But I thought it was a harsh penalty, a really harsh penalty that was not a penalty. But as for the retaking of it, yeah, by the letter of the law, that is the correct decision.
Speaking of the Arsenal game, time for you to take a victory lap. Your boy Eddie Nketiah, how many points did he score you on fantasy football this week?
Yeah, nice one. Cheers for that, mate. Me personally, he got me a big fat 0 because I bottled it and I played my wild card this week on one of the.
Fair play. You got like 70-odd points.
Yeah, and counting. I've still got Raheem Sterling tonight.
Yeah.
So it's worked out all right in that way. But one of the people to fall by the wayside when I played my wild card was sadly Eddie Nketiah. But no, he got his goal. I do have him in a fantasy football draft league though, so there is that. But yeah, Nketiah got a goal, which is good to see. So I like to say that I called this, I predicted it, and I did, but I just didn't back myself and took him out my fantasy side.
I keep saying this about Arsenal, but old Arsenal don't win that game, do they? They draw. No. And they fought until I think a lot of people thought it was going to be a lot easier than it was. Mikel Antonio, of course, getting the equaliser for West Ham in a fairly back and forth game. But credit to them, 2 games, 2 wins. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing.
Yeah, it felt like a proper grind for them to get this result, and that kind of just goes off the back of what you said there about maybe the old Arsenal of 2, 3, 4, 5, even a year ago. Maybe they don't have that in them to get that grind, to get that result, and to get the 2-1 win. But it was, it was very much an ugly win for Arsenal. But that is probably something that a lot of Arsenal fans, long-term Arsenal fans, are delighted to be seeing, because it is, as we've mentioned, these are the games that maybe they wouldn't have won in years gone by. And yeah, it's 2-2. That's all you could ask for from Arsenal.
I described Everton versus West Brom as a potential massacre as our preview on Friday. 5-2. Your boy Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I know, scoring you a boatload of points. My hot tip at the start of the season, James Rodriguez scoring his first goal for Everton, being involved in everything. Worrying times for West Brom, exciting times for Toffee fans.
It is, yeah. It was a great game, and I also brought in James this week, so extra points there. But it was a really strange game because West Brom, for the first probably half an hour, it looked like it could be a massacre the other way. It was all West Brom. They looked really positive. And then obviously on the flip side of that, you get the sending off, or Everton get their equaliser, which it was initially ruled out for offside, but then VAR allowed it because it came off the West Brom defender before Calvert-Lewin popped it in. But yeah, then you have Kieran Gibbs just being a silly boy. It was a nothing. It was it was just a little casual push on James, which there was no need for. Nobody would go down from that, but it's football in 2020. So of course you're giving the player the chance to go down, and you get yourself in a situation you don't need to be in, and you're giving the referee no real choice but to send you off. And from there, I mean, obviously West Brom did get back into it at 2-2 with a hell of a free kick from Pereira. It was two really good goals from West Brom. But yeah, Everton in the second half, after it got to 2-2, Everton really stepped it up and they look good. I like the fact that Calvert-Lewin just got 3 scrappy goals. I'm expecting him in the next game to score off his arse. It's that sort of... I know Ancelotti is kind of not compared him to, but wants him to be his Pippo Inzaghi, where... just you don't really do much. You run about a lot. You work quite hard, but you just finish from mainly the 6-yard box. And so for Calvert-Lewin to get 3 scrappy goals was nice. Richarlison looked good. James looked good. Everton looked. Decore looked good again. Allen looked good. Michael Keane getting a goal. Luca Digne always looks good because he's a fantastic footballer.
Yeah.
Jordan Pickford, he had his moments. He still had his moments. I'm still not sure. I know that free kick was an absolute steal of phrase from Ian McIntosh. It was an absolute thunder bastard. But I don't know. There's part of me who's thinking you could have got over there a little bit. But then maybe it's just me being harsh on Jordan Pickford because it was a hell of a strike. But yeah, positive news, positive times for Toffees.
Finally, it speaks to how much of a goal fest this weekend was that our final game has 7 goals in it. It's not going to be dull with Leeds in the Premier League, is it?
No, not at all. If these opening games are something to go by, obviously the Liverpool game, the opening weekend, and then this game is Fulham, it's going to be entertaining to watch Leeds with their murder ball, as the Ellen Road faithful like to call it under Bielsa. That it was. I'll be surprised. I think Leeds were great. Leeds deserved to win by probably far greater margin than just the 1 goal. But I think you have to give some credit to Fulham for getting back in the game almost. The fact when they're 4-1 down and Leeds were playing so well, that could have easily gone horribly, horribly wrong for Fulham. But they chipped away. They got a couple of goals back into it, 4-3 in the end. They still lost, but I think they give Scott Parker something to hold on to there. A kind of some positives to take away from the game was how they showed some character there at the end. But yeah, Leeds were great. Leeds were fun to watch. And yeah, I love the opening strike from Helder Costa when he just absolutely hammers it, just from a nice tight angle in off the bar. It looked nice. That kind of set the tone for might be a bit of an explosive afternoon, and it was. And a first win on the board for Leeds. Now they're back in the Premier League after 16 years away.
Yeah, really, really great game that. If you haven't gone back and watched it, go and check that one out. Very quickly, let's look ahead to tonight's games. Villa, Sheffield United, and of course, Man City starting their Premier League campaign off at Molineux against Wolverhampton Wanderers. The old cliche potential banana skin for City here.
Maybe. Although I think that maybe this it kind of takes away a bit from Wolves. So I think Wolves are a really good side, and obviously going to Molineux, even though there's not fans there, it's still going to be a bit of a test for City. Wolves
their number last season.
They did, exactly, and Wolves got off to a really good start the opening weekend. The 2-0 win, and yeah, I think like you would go with City as the favourites here, but then I don't know. It could be Wolves' game to win with this. I mean, Sergio Aguero's still out for what Pep's described as another couple of months. Aymeric Laporte is not available just yet after testing positive, and he's been in isolation, but he should be back by the next game. The news as we're recording this today that Ilkay Gundogan is going to be missing because he's tested positive. So there are, I mean, and City always at the back. I mean, last season you're thinking especially when Laporte's not playing, they always look susceptible and always look like to concede, whether it's the fullbacks getting too far forward in Mendy and Kyle Walker, or whether it's the fact that you've got Nicolas Otamendi who just what is that about? I don't even know. Yeah, and Pep's lost faith with John Stones. So when Laporte doesn't play, City can fall apart at the back. Obviously, they've brought in Nathan Ake now, who hopefully can bring some stability there. I think he's a great footballer. I think he'd be really nice to go alongside Laporte rather than just to fill in for him. And Ferran Torres should be making his debut as well for City, having arrived from Valencia. So to me, I think I lean towards City in this, but Wolves will have chances.
Yeah, 2-1. I'm going to go for City for this one, and in the Villa Sheffield United 0-0.
Wow, you're throwing them under the bus this early. I mean, yeah, poor Villa fans. They're their first game of the season, getting all hyped, and you just go, right, no, it's going to be 0-0 in a weekend that's been full of goals. Yeah.
There's always got to be one game that lets you down. I just see Villa. They're going to not want to start the season with a loss, and it's going to be a really tough season for them. We talked about it. They've made some really good signings recently. We should point that out. And I think there's still speculation on Origi potentially going to Villa Park. But yeah, I just see them setting up shop against Sheffield United, who didn't look great, obviously against Wolverhampton Wanderers. What score prediction for the Wolves game?
The Wolves game, I'm going to go 3-2 to Man City. I'm going goals.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going all out. And then Villa and Sheffield United with this one. I actually fancy Villa in this. I really like Sheffield United. Of all the teams as a neutral watching last season, it was Sheffield United and Wolves were probably the two I enjoyed watching the most. But they look so off it in the opening game, Sheffield United. And I think Villa, they'll be buoyed by the new signings. They'll be buoyed by Jack Grealish signing that new deal. Whether he stays for the full 5 years, that's not the point. They've got him on board now for at least this season and maybe the season after, who knows. But I think Emi Martinez in goal, I'm looking forward to seeing how he does with a full season as number one, because to me, in my head, he was always just like, well, he was just always that backup keeper at Arsenal that never gets a game, plays the odd League Cup game, and that's it. But then when he came in for Bert Lennon last season, towards the end after Lennon got injured, I thought he looked brilliant. And I think Villa, if he could pick up that form, if that wasn't just a one-off really for those couple of games, Villa could have a really good keeper there. And Ollie Watkins got a goal in his debut in the cup in the week, so maybe he will be chomping at the bit. And I think I fancy Villa for 2-0 in this, and it kind of pains me because I really want Sheffield United to do well. I think this Villa team's going to have too much at this time of the season. I think Sheffield United might take a few more games to get going, really, and I think Villa could exploit that.
Well, let us know your predictions for tonight's games and your thoughts on the games over the weekend in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to WhatCulture Football, of course. And you can continue the conversation on Twitter at WhatCultureFC, where you can follow both of us. Andrew, where can people get you on Twitter?
Yeah, you can get me at Cultured Left Peg. And just to clarify, that was my baffled face then. You are legit sticking with 0-0 for this game?
Yeah.
Where can people follow you then, Wilbourn, to give you the grief?
They can follow me, the man who is top of the WhatCulture Office Fantasy League. I'm saying it now because this is probably going to be the only time this season, a bit like saying Newcastle United were title contenders, that I'm going to be able to say it. Follow me at Adam Wilbourn for the best fantasy football tips for the last 2 weeks. Follow us all at WhatCulture FC. Wow. But this has been the Premier League review. We'll be back to talk about tonight's results tomorrow morning, of course. But for now, my thanks to Andrew Pollard. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.